So once again, welcome to our Tech Camp Advanced Google Sites Plus training. And so we've been doing a few more advanced things and kind of out of the box today. So what I'm going to be talking about today, 5 things. We're going to go over a few tips and tricks that maybe you might know about Google Sites, or maybe you've never used them before, or some things that I've learned over time or working with different teachers and things doing Google Sites. Taking your Google Sites to the next level is like a few things that you could do just to make them look a little bit more engaging, or maybe what students or even parents are used to seeing a little bit more. Then we're going to talk about embedding and linking different things in Google Sites, and then what are some website best practices, and then some different ways that you can use Google Sites. So like I said, if you don't get through everything, that's fine. I just wanted to have a little bit more than less. And then if we want to have this actual slide deck shared to you at the end, you'll have access to everything. So the first thing we're going to look at with Google Sites is I'm going to go ahead and talk about how if you've never done Google Sites before and you have no idea how to make it or anything, you can explore the content through our self-paced course. And we do have a self-paced Power School course, so just go ahead and search that and you can find sort of, we call it the Explorer or beginning level of Google Sites. But for now, I'm going to take this understanding. You probably have a general understanding of Google Sites. So now we're going to do some quick tips and tricks, and we're going to go to the next level, okay? So one thing some people might not know is the double-click quick menu. And so what I've done is I've created a brand new Google site that has nothing on it. And I'm just going to show you some of these tools, but I'm going to refer back to the slide deck so that way you'll have access to it, and then I'll remember what I'm supposed to say. So I'm over here on Google Sites, and if I double click, and by the way, before I click, let's get this out of the way. This is called Cursor Pro, and I bought it through the Apple Store. And if I click with a left click, it's blue. If I right click, it's right. It's awesome. It's worth every penny. But most people ask me about it, so I'm just going to say it now. So if you double click on any white space in a Google site, it's going to pull up a wheel. So it makes it really easy to add text, any type of images, any type of upload tool or Drive, anything from Drive. I didn't realize this until I had, done it on accident once. And so I just kept going up here, and then I come back, and then I go up here, and then I come back. So if you just double click, boom, shortcut to get through that color wheel. So that's one really fast, quick tip or trick. The next one, and so you're going to have a slide deck with stuff written down, and then I try to make a few animated GIFs just so it's easier to see what I was talking about really quick, but I am going to show you live most of them. Okay, the next thing is you can add headers to a Google site that have animation with them. Now, I don't want you to go back to the MySpace years where, every single thing was like moving around on a site, and you don't want something that's like changing 17 colors over and over again, and you're making someone absolutely hate everything that's happening. But you can find an animated GIF that is rather subtle, and it is a little bit hard and time consuming to find. And then I'm trying to find ones that have good, shareable rights, but there are a few out there that are high res and that I have sort of a subtle animation to them. I wouldn't probably keep them on there all the time, but if maybe you had one page where it was like the student celebration page that you did great, or something like that, like you can add it, but I don't know if you remember like all these animations and they're moving back and forth. They're like, you don't really want that on a website, but it's nice to have some movement sometimes. On my teacher portfolio, I have one that I had got, and it's a whole bunch of trees, and the light just kind of moves like this through it, like super slowly. And so I kind of like that one. So to do that, you are just going to want to go to Google, or if you have any other type of provider that you like for an animated GIF. I would not suggest Giphy off the top of my head. I like Giphy to insert in for different like fun little projects or something, because they're small and they're not going to be at high quality. But if you want to have a header that's in the background that's really nice, you're probably going to want to look up like animated GIF, and then maybe like stars, subtle, just anything you can think of to look up. So the reason I want to go through Google search is I can go here and go to images, And there's a couple things I want to show you in the images search for Google. And these are the two things. I'm going to go to tools. Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. I'm going to go to tools, and there's two things. I want to change the size of this to probably be a medium to make it a little bit bigger. And then, and this is where I say you narrow down your options quite a bit, usage rights. You can change usage rights, and I love teaching this skill to students. So that way they are getting any type of animation or image that is not copyrighted. So you can come here and you can find Creative Commons licenses, and you can find a good image that doesn't have any type of copyright on it. And like I said, you limit yourself quite a bit. To double check and look at these images, you can just click on one of them, and then it's going to open it up here on the right, and then you can see that real subtle animation. So hopefully this has got just like a twinkle to it a little bit. I'm not sure it's even animated, and it's only 500 by 400, but that's fine. But this is why I'm saying that, there it goes. It's kind of like you're traveling through space a little bit. So you can find one of those images. Once you find it, I like to right click and open the image in a new tab. So that way you know for sure that you have the biggest version that you're going to be able to get right here. And then I'm going to right click on it, and then I can save that image. Okay, so going back here, I do have another one that I saved. I'm going to go to upload that image now. Yeah, Eileen.
I just have a quick question. I know on like Google Classroom, you have to have a specific size. Does this one need the same thing?
If you wanted a specific size, and we're going to actually go over that in a little bit, you don't need a specific size. Sometimes it's good to have one, and for the life of me, I have that written down. But I'll show you. You don't need it for this because it's just going to kind of pull out the main part. I'm going to show you that it actually pulls it in weird in Google Sites. So I have kind of a workaround and a tip for that too. But so I'll explain that in a little bit. So now if you look at my page, it's kind of got like these shooting stars. They're not super bad. I don't like that they bounce back, but that's okay. So you can just kind of get a little bit of a background image into your Google site. So that was just one other little tip or trick. One other thing, and I talked about this in my escape room, create a folder in your drive that has all of the things that you need for whatever you're putting on your site. And what you can do is if you go to drive.google.com, or you're in your drive, and you change the share permissions of the folder, anything you put inside that folder is going to have the same share permissions. So instead of worrying about changing everything and putting it on there, I would, so I'm going to pretend my Google Earth is like my website folder. If you right click on a folder, and when you go right click share, you can change the share permissions of the entire folder. And then, like I said, anything you put inside that folder, you're going to be able, this is why I put images on it, on my slides, so you don't have to worry about it. So you're going to take that folder, right click on it, and hit share. And then you can change it to anyone with the link can view it, or anyone at APS can view it. And then anything you put inside that folder, it's going to convert. So then you don't have to worry about individual share permissions on your site or anything. It's all going to be on that website. Another thing is some people didn't realize that if you drag across the screen, or you take an image and move it around on a Google site, it's going to pull up 3 lines to help you center it. And if you put, I'm sure you've noticed that if you put an image underneath another image, sometimes it connects them together. But that's nice if you ever want to move all of the items at the same time. You can line up both vertically, or you can center things. So those are those 3 lines. So I won't bother showing you that one because it's kind of already there in the GIF. Another thing that some teachers haven't really played with a lot is if you have images of like students you're collecting a whole bunch, or you have images of your classroom or something, and I would suggest putting all of those images into one folder, because then later on you can go here to image carousel, or you can keep updating your image carousel, and when you select your options to upload an image, you can select from an entire folder So I have classroom photos. And so I can select the first photo and then I can like do shift and go all the way down and select all the images at once. And I can just open them and stick them all in there at the same time. So I used to have like classroom images and I'd keep updating them if we like had a picture in the hallway or something like that for a bulletin board, or like a student who did something awesome and I took a picture of their work or something. I can just go straight here, do that again, and just grab all the images and not worry about which one did I miss or which one did I not have. I would just throw them in there and insert, and bam, it has an image carousel of the images that keep just moving around and around and around. So that's another like little trick that I used to do that would save me time. It's not like a huge game changer, but it was one of those things where I was like, why am I not keeping all of these pictures in the same folder? Like I should have thought that through. And so now it's easier to be able to move that through on an image carousel over time. Yes, Annie.
I'm sorry to keep asking questions.
No, it's good. I like it.
So this, the images, you said to put all your images in one folder too. Should you have that in that folder that you have all the permissions changed to already too?
You can have it in there. Yeah. I have mine on my drive. But you can have it in there and then you can stick it in there. And then that's nice too, because it will be able to be viewable. So good point. I probably should have done that, but I didn't. But I went against my own advice. So yes, it would make my life easier. But my job in life is to make my life not easier. So
thank you.
You're welcome. And the image carousel is not going to show up now. It's actually going to show up, when I preview it. But now I got like, kind of interesting looking site, a little bit better. So talking about those share permissions that Eileen just so awesomely brought up, is if you are afraid that you're like, oh, I think I put something on here and I don't know, I have no idea if I have everything set up where everyone can see it or not, I should double check this. So there are going to be a couple sites that I am going to play with today that are already built and it's got everything in it. One of them was my teacher website, and I did have like an image carousel of my classroom. And this is not the best because after time I learned that I didn't make it very well, but that's fine. I had my picture of my classroom, our schedule, and then I had like snacks, when we're bringing snacks and stuff. And I'm going to get the link up here for the published link. And sometimes things that I embedded or added, I may not have permissions to where parents can view them, right? So I'm going to go over here to these three dots and open an incognito window. So, and I taught students doing portfolios how to do this too. One of the best ways to double check to see if a link is broken is to open that incognito window, because it pulls out any way that you are on an APS account. Now, the only thing that it doesn't work on though is if you have set it up for only people in APS, and then it won't necessarily work because it won't check it unless you're signed in APS. But if you want to change it to where it's like a parent website, or where you're trying to see if anyone outside of APS can see something, I can now look at this live document, and I'm pretty sure I kept like 3 or 4 things off here broken. There it is. So I didn't change the share permission on my Google Calendar or on that article that had the schedule on it. I can't remember what it was. I guess it might have been a PDF or a doc. But see, it's going to have that broken link because I didn't have the share permissions correct. So that's one way that you can check it, is just by opening that link in an incognito window. And here is, I think it's the next thing I was going to talk about. Yes. We talked about the header size, and here is where I was running into some things last year with a ridiculous amount of teachers. There were a ton of teachers who got online and they listened to these teachers who were super cute and sweet. And even Alice Keeler, this is a template from Alice Keeler. And this is why I said I kind of forgot the size of this. I can go here and go to file and page setup and double check it and everything. But she sent this great header image, and it has, Mickey Mouse on it and everything's great. And she put it here that teachers can add, add everything in this blue line, and it's going to go on Google Sites. So here's how this works. In Google Sites, it pulls the middle of every image. I don't know why that is, but it does it. So anytime it pulls a header image, it's going to pull the middle. So all of these people last year were adding in all of these awesome, you know, banners, and then they were recreating them, and they were making these great elaborate things here for their header, and they were super proud of them. And then they would get a hold of me and say, I don't get why this isn't working for parents. Parents are saying this isn't working. This isn't working. So let me share with you why this is a thing. Okay, so first of all, let's share why this doesn't work. And then I'm going to share with you a workaround that we figured out that you can use instead. So I'm going to go back to my site here, possibly, and I'm going to go to our website. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to upload this guy. Just like I did with my GIF, but now it's going to change it to Mickey. And the good news is, if I go here in my downloads, Alice Keeler spent that whole time, you know, making the template, and it's right in the middle of the screen, and it makes you all happy, and everything's good. So see, it's the perfect size, and there's blah, blah, blah. The issue is this. I'm going to go here to preview and realize, especially last year, a good chunk of people, a lot of them weren't just using their computers. Okay, so if someone switches it over to a tablet view, it's going to change that size and not line up correct. And so now all of a sudden the image that you made, or maybe you had your class name or a cute little Bitmoji over here or something, it just smushed up, and it works even worse when you're trying to use it on a mobile phone because you can't even see that image anyway, and it's going to cut it off weird. And so people hadn't factored into the fact that it's going to change these 3 ways if you're trying to put a header background. Okay, so here's the workaround for that. And I thank Aaron for this because we were trying to brainstorm stuff and he totally came up with it. So I'm actually going to undo this and go back to the previous image that we had here. And I'm actually going to click on this title page and I'm going to delete it. So where it says your page title, I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to go to insert an image this way. So if you do want to create a cute little Bitmoji, or you want to create something that is like your classroom site, my advice is to go into Google Drawings. So before we do that, I'm going to actually put together an image real quick if it lets me. And so I just went ahead and inserted some word art. I put in some word art and I just put like it's my classroom 2020, 2021. And what's nice about the Google Drawings and why I want to use drawings is because it's going to default to a transparent background when I make a PNG. So if you do have Bitmoji, you have an icon for your class, you got anything that you just want to be in that header image, maybe you're going to recreate something, but think that this is going to be what's going to be placed on top of your background. So this time I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it and paste it into this right here. And then I'm going to go to File and download it as a PNG to keep that transparent background. Okay, so we're kind of making like a layered header here. And the reason that we want to do that is we're not going to insert it as an image, whoops, sorry, on the background. We're going to actually put it in as text on the foreground. So I'm going to go to Images. I'm going to upload that logo. And I'm not uploading it in here because it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to find it. But if I go over here and find my class logo, and I open it in this white space, so watch, it's going to pull it right here into the website. I can take this image and drop it right into my header. There it goes. I can preview it now because normally Google tries to default the text to move and resize so it fits on any of those items. So now if I go here to the full site, it's going to look nice and centered. And then I go here to the tablet, it's still going to be there and it's going to have that as an image in the foreground. And then if I go back to mobile, I'm going to keep the same thing. So as long as you don't make it like super wide and super huge and everything, you kind of keep it like as a middle image or a little bit wider than the middle of where your header would be. That's another way you can create a header that's going to work on all different types of tools. Okay, so those were just some quick tips and tricks. I didn't know if you guys had any questions about that before I move on to taking our Google Sites kind of to the next level, some other stuff we can do. All right, So one way you can take your Google site to the next level is kind of come up with a color scheme. If you're not sure of how to make a color scheme, you can use something like Colors Wall. I have an extension, oops, I turned it off, an extension called Colorzilla, and I can pull colors off of things. But if you try and keep with the same scheme or coloring of things, even having images that have close to those same colors, it really looks cohesive. And honestly, I used to just pick the colors that my school had. So when I worked at 7Bar, it was denim, sand, and rust. So I really tried to find any pictures that had like sandish, like yellow or blue or red, and then any other page that I created or I had with things, I tried to keep kind of that same look or that same feel about it, keeping those same colors on everything. So you kind of don't want like a whole bunch of different colors or a whole bunch of different things or colors that don't really go together and changing them all the time. Try and sort of keep it with that same look. So in this case, I kind of used yellow for the sand color. So most people who create websites do that. They do actually sell like color palettes to people, which is kind of crazy. I think you can hopefully finally figure out a color palette, but I mean, if you want to buy one, I guess you could. Even with our sites that we build, we try and focus on our colors of our red and green logo, and then we'll add like black or gray to it. So that's kind of where we try and keep that same look, and it looks really cohesive and it's easy on the eye for anybody who's trying to follow along with that site. So going along with that, here are some examples of people who've had a color scheme. This was my original website, and if you're looking at these cool pictures and you're like, oh, I don't have pictures like that, it's Unsplash. I wouldn't let students go to Unsplash. They have all kinds of weird pictures on there. But on Unsplash, they are Creative Commons pictures that you can use that people have taken. It's almost like a here's photography Instagram, but you can have it and use it. And so I found some really good pictures on there. So this one had kind of a rainbow look. I would say try and stick to around 5 colors max. But you see how it kind of looks like it's really cohesive if you have a color scheme when you're building a Google site. The other thing is to create a classroom logo. And I kind of sort of already did that where I was over here on my, not this one, I'm going to get rid of Mickey if you don't mind. This logo here where I created my image. And I created Mrs. Nunez, and it had the background and everything. But along with your logo, you can also include a favicon. So what is a favicon? I'll let you know. A favicon is this little button right here that anytime you have a tab, it's going to show up. And why that's kind of important, so this is my favicon for my teacher website when I was a Wrangler, is if I right click on it and I pin that tab, you can tell which site you're on. So a lot of people will do right click and pin it, and then you can know that this is our Innovator website. I can know that this is my APS website, and that's really good for users because a lot of users tend to use that a lot. So let's go back to Google Sites and look at how to add a brand image and how to add a favicon. So that's going to be here through the settings right here, and it is going to be under brand images. And this is where you can upload a logo or you can upload a favicon. Now there are 2 different places. A logo is going to be in the corner of your website here in the live site for everything that you're doing. The favicon is the one that's going to be up here. So my advice for favicons, keep them kind of as minimal as possible. Usually favicons that have just an outline of something, they're not like a huge box or like this one, I guess it's okay. They tend to look a little bit better, like that's our Digital Innovator logo. So if you have anything like that, I would say just spend a little bit of time trying to either make a classroom logo or figure out a logo. So I think I put it here, yeah. I'm going to stick this here, the one, I don't advise it being the same picture as your header, but just so you can see what a logo looks like. And what it'll do is it'll also pull any of the colors out of that logo and have you select them as a theme for your site. So that's kind of nice too. So it's really cohesive and it all matches. So when we were talking about getting a color palette, guess what? Google knows that's what people look for, and it'll pull it out of that brand if you ever have one, which is what we tend to pull out with our logo for our EdTech stuff. Now, if you do not have a favicon, it's not the end of the world, because like most Google tools, you can select and then you can do a Google image search. Now, the thing with this is it may not be perfect, and obviously you don't want something huge, but let me put like a teacher clip arts. I don't even know what's going to come up. It might have some cute little image or something. Nope, I hate every single one of those. So I've decided now just I'm going to put an apple for the teacher. I'm going to do apple clip art, and I just want like one single little apple. And this one looks pretty good. You do want something that's not going to have a ton of like shadow and color on it. You just want something that's kind of going to show up. I would avoid being black outline because you don't know if that's going to be see-through, like transparent, and then it's not going to work. So I'm just going to run with this one and hope for the best. I'm going to insert it. And then once you've done that, my apple, I'm going to close this out, and you're going to want to publish it or it's not going to show up. So when you publish this, it's going to have that favicon. I'm not going to publish this though because I don't want to waste the thing. It's going to have that little favicon up here, and it's going to have this up here on the edge of the site. So that's another way you can kind of just take it to the next level. Students will get used to, oh, that's my teacher site. Parents will get used to having that on there as the teacher site as well. Okay, I put how to do it. Another thing you can do is change the layout of how a website looks. This is really good if you have a ton of information. Most of the time you're building a website where the bar is up on the top and it will have a drop down. So I only have like 3 drop downs, and here I had 2 drop downs. But I actually did a portfolio for ISTE certification, and I had a ton of stuff I was putting in these drop downs, and I was like, man, this site is getting huge. So what it ended up doing is I ended up making a sidebar. So now there's a sidebar here instead of up on the top, where all of the drop downs and the pages are going to be here on the side. And that's really easy to switch up. All you have to do is go to this gear icon and change navigation from the top to the side. And that's how it works out. And so now if I preview this, what other people are going to see on this site is this bar here on the side. And it will shrink this up a little bit more. So you just have to be conscious of that for like the look of your website. So now I can go here, I can go to any of these, or I can drop them down and go to anything like this. And so that's kind of another fun sort of way that you can just change it up a little bit or make it look different than other people's websites. Do keep in mind, though, that most people prefer the top and then it drops down. It's just kind of ways that you do it. So just the difference between the header versus the side navigation. So that's another thing you can change a little bit. The other thing is if you do, I had to keep it like this because I was getting evaluated by judges and stuff. And so I needed to keep it where it's easy to see. But if you do have a website that has all of these drop downs and it's really long and it has a whole bunch of stuff, things can get lost in the shuffle. So one thing you can do, and I'm going to show you our Digital Innovators website, is we had so many meetings throughout the year, but we wanted to have them linked to different things and have them be able to have access to them, is we created one link here for the meetings. And we created icons for each of the different days that we were going to meet on. And that link or that image is going to link to, there it is, the November 19th page, where it has all the information and everything about that day without cluttering up the homepage and all the rest of it. And I can still, hopefully it'll load here in a second. Once it loads, I can still go back to that homepage or the page with the meetings and get to a different meeting or something like that. So is using images that you can link to other stuff. So let's look at how to do that real fast. Is if I'm inside my site, I can insert an image. There it goes. Okay. So if I'm here and I want to go, okay, I'm going to go back to insert. And my advice is probably create either little images here on drawings or something. But for now, I'm just going to select something. I'm going to go back to the poor Apple because I feel like he feels bad that I didn't use him for a favicon. Insert. Okay. So now that that's there, I want to link it to a page on my website, but I don't want the website page to show up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to pages, And I'm going to create that web page, and I'm going to put everything on it. I'm going to house everything on there, but I'm going to hide it from navigation. So once I create that page, you're going to see that it's going to create a brand new page here, but I don't want it to be able to be viewable. So when I hover over or select that page here on the Pages menu and I click these 3 dots, I can hide it from navigation, but it's still going to be able to be linked. I'm going to click on this image and I'll be able to link it right here in the site, and it will still allow me to link to those hidden pages. So, whoops, helps that I hit apply. So now you can click on it and it will go to those hidden pages. So that's another way to kind of clean up Google Sites, or just a little tip or trick to make it better. You can create your own icons. We used the Noun project. So if you've never used the Noun project, you can create those kind of images. So that's how you can create custom buttons and then link to hidden pages. Another thing is text on slides is so hard to read. So in the Google build space, there is a way to make collapsible text. And so you can keep incorporating that collapsible text here. And so I used to keep updates, which was my parent newsletter that would write out, or any projects I would write out to parents, but it was so long and so much text that I can collapse it now, and it almost functions like a blog almost. So if you look at it, it's really clean. It has like December, it has October, it has all these things. But then if I go to look up like our winter mug exchange information and I expand it, it's going to have that letter that I sent home to parents, a lot of info, but you can collapse that text and it'll look really good on the actual site itself. And it's a whole lot easier to find stuff. And if you want to create it kind of like a blog, you can create a table of contents, and that is on this page. I went to just table of contents right here, and what it's going to do is pull up all of the anchors right here for any type of text that is going to be a title or a heading. So if you have anything that is as a title or a heading, it's going to go ahead and pull that over here to the table of contents. Now you can hover over these items and then just make them either visible or hidden if you would like. I just want the months to show up, and I'm going to get rid of any of the other things that are underneath it. And it doesn't quite look right, but when you look at the actual published version of the site, you're going to see just where it says like December, October. I think I might have that up. Let's see. Yeah, it's just going to say December, October, September, August. And if I go to click on September, it's going to throw me down to September stuff. So it's a really good way to manage that, is to have, like I said, collapsible text less. If you do have to have a lot of text on one page, add in a table of contents. Is there any questions about taking it to the next level? All right. So moving on to talking about embedding and linking stuff. So consider embedding some really cool tools for engagement. There are a lot of tools that you can embed. There's like Padlet, Flipgrid, Wakelet, Prezi, social media feeds. If you do want me to go over how to do social media stuff, I can talk about how you can take like Twitter. I don't know if you have like a classroom Twitter, you have to be careful with it, but there are some school ones. So if you want to add in the school Twitter, you can take that and get the embed code. So most of these tools like Padlet, Flipgrid, they do have an embed code. So if I go back to this site and I go to insert and embed, that's where you can either get the URL code to embed it, or you can get the actual embed code. And when you embed it, it's going to be within the site. Now, a little bit of a caveat to that. I hope I'm using that word right. I'm going to close this out actually, and I've already created sort of a site. I kind of do all my trainings in my head and then, you know, doing things at one time to see stuff. Is I already created this with all of these tools embedded in it. So I already created kind of a sample site so we can see what they look like, and I had it load because I have so many tools. We're going to go over that in a second. I have so many tools that are embedded. This thing, and I'm not sure it's even going to work right now, it's going to be super slow. So the more things you embed, the slower it's going to be. And I think that's one reason my system's kind of slowing down, is because I put way too many things on this, but I wanted to see, hey, let's see what happens. There it is. At least we can kind of see them, even though it's not the live one. So, you know, see how the Padlet's actually in the site itself. And then if you have Flipgrid, you can actually just access right here. You can access Wakelet. That's another tool that you can embed, and Prezi. And so I just embedded a whole bunch of different stuff that was off of that screen. Twitter. So you can see that you can embed them straight into Google Sites and use them. Here's one that some people don't know about, is if you go to audio, I'm not sure I wrote this down either. Did I say it? I probably should have put how to on it. Nope. So I'll add a little bit of that because I think I forgot to mention that. If you go to your drive and you right click on an audio file, you can come over here and embed that URL, or straight from your drive. I think it may or may not work. If you go to a drive and you add things that are audio sounds, Google will automatically create an audio play sort of tool within Google Sites for you. So I've had students who wanted to create podcasts. I think I just closed it because it was taking too long, but that's okay. But I've had students who created podcasts. We've had students who did kind of like newsletters, or like, what were they called? The morning news or something, so they can talk about it and do it. You can actually embed full on audio, and it's really easy because you just pull it from Drive into here and it will create that little bar right there for you. The other thing that you can embed is full on folders. And instead of selecting a file to embed, you're going to click on the whole folder, and this is where share permissions are important. You're going to click on the whole folder, and then you're going to, I don't really want to do that folder, but if I do this folder, come on. The other one is just so huge, it's going to freak it out. That's full of a ton of stuff. So if I do this and I go to insert, it's going to insert the entire folder, and it's going to look just like this on the screen when someone tries to access things, and they'll be able to get inside that entire folder, any subfolder, and all of that content. So if you have like, I think I used to use it for classroom newsletters and things, so then if parents wanted to access the paper copy of something, it was always going to be in there. Really easy to get to. And the last thing I was going to say for as far as embedding and linking is you can create an email link straight to your email. So to do this, I would just go to images and insert, or select like a mail icon, any type of icon or logo that you want to use to be your email logo. And I'm going to click on it once, and then I'm going to go here to link. And this is your link. You put mail to : and whatever email you want it to be. And when you do that, when the site is live, and once again, I can't show you because I'm afraid it's going to freak it out. But when the site is live, if you click on it, it's going to open up the ability to email you directly to that address. So that was something that's kind of nice to have on your website if you need it. So if I go back here, and let's say I have a YouTube channel, or I want the students to go to another website often, you don't have to create a link. You can actually create a page to that site. So I'm going to go here to pages. And what you do is you go down here to the plus sign. And instead of doing plus to a new page, you just, but if you hover over it, it'll say new link. So this is why I build things in advance. Now I got to delete these guys. But if I go here to YouTube playlist, I have this quote unquote page linked to a YouTube playlist, but it's not going to be in my site. It's actually going to take whoever clicks on that quote unquote page to a brand new site. So the reason that's helpful is if you have a website that you go to often, but you want the students not to experience like going somewhere and opening a new tab and doing all these other things, it's just going to open it really smoothly right from the space that is kind of the layout that is already in Google Sites. Let me delete that guy. Delete. Okay. Just so it doesn't muddy the waters later. So I think we talked about that. We talked about embedding full drives, and we talked about embedding the email links. So all of the information and how to do that is going to be on the live version of this presentation, and you guys can refer to it later and totally have everything. Now, here are a few things for website best practices. So I'm going to go ahead and close these guys really fast. so they don't, I'm hoping this guy's going to load. I'll close this portfolio and let's see if that helps things out along a little bit. So now let's just talk about general website best practices, okay? And there's only a couple things I'm going to mention. Okay, well, a couple things with a lot on the slides. Okay, first of all is separating text more than what you think you should. I know you think like, man, that has got a lot of spaces on it. Do it more. Create contrast. So in this case, I have white text on a black background. Switch it up and have it in different places in a different way. Have larger font size, bold text, use some color. Contrast text with the background. Larger fonts are better. I'm not saying to go huge on the whole website. Don't go like 24 point on the whole website, but anywhere that was like 8 or 10, really hard to see unless it's a tiny little footnote, okay? Increase the line height of body text. So what I mean by that is if you have the text that's in the body of a site. So I'm going to go over here to the Plus Sample website. And what I have here is a page. And this is the one I was hoping wouldn't get freaked out. So let's hope it's going to cooperate. That kind of has just information dumped at the top. And then we're going to talk about how we can take that layout and make it look a little bit better as we go along. So I said, here's English language arts. Here's our fiction stuff. Here's our nonfiction stuff. And here's all the stuff we're going to learn. So for the body text, you're going to want to select this text. And here on these 3 dots, you can actually space that out more. So you want to space it out a little bit more. If you have headers that are huge and really spaced out, you want to shrink that and make it a little bit less. And that's going to give it a nice cohesive look to things. The other thing is limit lines of text, because if I have this text here that's a whole bunch and it goes on and on and on and on, if someone looks at that on a mobile device, whatever's here is going to stretch out to like half the page. So you have to think about writing it shorter. You need to have shorter lines. Think about using like columns or vertical sections, or using text to break up, or using images to break up that text. Sorry. So I'm going to show you on a slide how it's going to look before and how we took that information and we built it afterwards. And here is a YouTube video about some really good ways to build typography on a text to make it look better. And so I've been taking these tips and tools and stuff that I've learned over time to create better stuff. And I will say now that I've gone back and looked at my website, I don't think it's very good, but there you go. Because I think I could have done it better. So I took this fiction and nonfiction genre stuff and I put it actually here with a different background with contrasting colors, and I put them in sort of boxes so you can see them a little bit better. And I'm keeping a scheme here, the same color palette, so that way it kind of looks the same with like blue, yellow, and gray. And then I took that fiction text and I broke it off smaller and I put it here, and I broke up that stuff with an image of a guy reading a book. And so it looks a lot better and it's easier to read. I made this spread apart more. I made this spread apart less. So that's kind of those tools to make it look a little bit better. Now, going along with that is the text itself. Hierarchy is important. Make the most important thing stand out. That's the thing you want to make bold. Don't make everything bold. Make the important thing bold. Differentiate with different colors of fonts. Keep important content flowing down. People want to read down. So don't think across, always think down. It's a little bit different than what we're used to writing and doing. Down is better. So smushing things up or making it like entering in between paragraphs, or taking that information and making it into more paragraphs. It seems crazy from a grammatical point of view. You're like, why am I making all these tiny paragraphs? It really works on a website though. Symmetry and harmony are important, so try and keep things lined up and where they're together. And then more white space is actually important to use. So I also have another video here of a guy that's telling you how to change the layout, and that's good. And so hence I took this long giant header and I made it shorter. I made it the bold important. I made this a little less. I ended up putting contrast, and I kept things going down, and I contrasted the text on top of each other. So basically what I did is I took that first website up here where I was just like, I'm going to dump it. And I don't think anyone's going to be crazy enough, hopefully, just to dump, text. You're going to think about adding some stuff, but just taking those ideas and those quick tips and tricks, I took that information and turned it into this. And then here's our Unit 1 content, and turn that one paragraph into this. So it's kind of showing you how you can take those really good tips and tricks. And by the way, I added 2 people. I know I just put 2 videos in there, and I know his face looks kind of scary, but 2 people who I really follow. And then another one is Teva Kessler, but he's actually a photographer, so I follow him for that. But he shows how to build photography things in with Google, and so I follow him too. So if you want to check out this slide deck for anything, even if you're like, yeah, your tips are awful, please get on there so you can look at these YouTube videos, and then you can totally follow these people because they're kind of awesome. And the last thing I'm going to talk about for the next couple of minutes are just some ways to use Google Sites. So I'm not going to do examples because it's going to take so long to load. But on each one of these, if you click on it, when you get it, you can see these examples. And I feel kind of creepy like sharing all this stuff with you because I'm like, man, it looks like I'm all full of myself, or I'm all weird because I have all these websites that I built. But and they're more so for exemplars too. But I do have a teacher website, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that's a lot of text, and I should have spread these apart, and I should have made my own buttons. So even doing this for you guys, I'm like, I didn't put into best practices some things. But you can still use it for your teacher portfolio to keep all of your stuff. Keep it if you're trying to get a job or do something. Use it to create student portfolios as well. I'm going to create some videos and do stuff for student bilingual portfolios because there are some things about those share permissions and domains and creating folders and stuff that students need to know. And so I'm going to be building that and doing that, but it will work for any student portfolio, not just for the bilingual SIL ones. So that can work out for you too. We are working on bilingual SIL portfolios. This is actually not a real student. I made it for students to demonstrate how to make bilingual SIL portfolios and what to do. So if you are going to do that, let me know, reach out. And there are a lot of tips and tricks and stuff to help, and with judges and stuff that we can help you with. The teacher website I already showed you today. You can create a hub or reference space, which is what we did with our innovator cohort, and you can have links to all of the assets from either PD or maybe if your principal wants to set it up, or if you offer trainings or you're a TLF and you offer stuff to your staff, you can set it up that way, and it's really accessible to get. Evaluations, so think about putting in your domain 1, 2, 3, 4, having a page for it, just dropping stuff in there over time, and then people can access it really quick. Escape rooms, I did an escape room earlier. If you want to check out the video, you can, and I talk about how to use tools to build with it. And then you can even create like PD opportunities or like flipped classroom stuff for your students, where you have videos, how-tos, and how to do stuff for the students just to refer back to at any time. So I kind of have one I started for Google Tools. And then you can create a website for project-based learning. So if you want to have a whole separate website for that, and students can go in and look at information on their own, they can share ideas. You can set it up for how you want students to kind of get in there and explore things. So I did one on a water project, and students learned about water, and some students went and learned about like waterborne diseases, and some people learned about the history of water. And then we built all of that up to try and solve the problem in the world of how do we have access to water. And so each team kind of came up with a project, and one team did like a waterless car wash, which is kind of cool. And we were all trying to raise money for getting a well in another country, and we raised all kinds of money, and then the school said we couldn't give it to them because it wasn't allowed. But it was still cool when we did it, but that's fine. So there's going to be, that's the sample website that I referenced to them. But inside the site, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. So I don't know if you had any questions. I know it's kind of the last one and you might be tapped. I am going to stay and hang out though. I'm going to go ahead and share in the chat really quick the link to the live. The live slides. I'm just trying to make it work. So hold on one second. I'm going to actually stop recording so we don't have to record me looking off to the distance trying to find